Hi, Jim McGreevey, and welcome to Second Chances. And today it's a great honor to be with the Right Honorable Craig Coughlin, the Speaker of the New Jersey General Assembly. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Craig and his beloved wife and three sons for like literally a lifetime. As Tish said to me, you know, I was carrying Nicholas and I was licking envelopes for you. I says, "Oh my gosh, that's a mark of guilt." But I just wanted to say thank you to Craig. And Craig is a son of the great community of South Amboy, New Jersey, where South Amboy back in its day was largely, you had to be either Polish and you went to Sacred Heart, or you were Irish and you went to St. Mary's. But the other thing South Amboy was known for was having more gin mills than any city, at least in New Jersey, maybe.
Well, I think, well, not more gin, but more per square mile. Remember, South Amboy was
That's what it was.
1 square mile town, and
Percentage.
back in the day, it was a place where virtually many blocks had a bar on the corner.
Yeah, it was a working class.
Yeah.
So what was it like to grow up in South Amboy, Greg?
Well, it was a place that was rooted in its community. You know, as I said, it's a 1 square mile town. Probably 7,500 people back then when I was growing up. I grew up in, I was born in '58. So, the years I have memories are starting probably late, mid '60s, right? When I started kindergarten and through high school. And, I lived there until after I got married. I was on the city council. But it was a place that that was the kind of a typical, as you point out, Jim, a blue collar, hardworking town. There were a lot of factories still in the area, and there was several had DuPonts and Hercules, and I had uncles who worked at AS&R, which was a smelting plant in Perth Amboy. My dad worked at Chevron Oil in Perth Amboy.
Sure.
So a lot of people who worked in factories, a lot of men who did that. Strong commitment to the volunteer fire department in South Amboy was at the heart of the community. Still is, by the way. There's still an all volunteer fire department. Rooted in faith. I mean, in addition to having the two big Catholic churches, for a tiny town which was overwhelmingly Catholic, there was a Lutheran church, a Presbyterian church, there was even a synagogue when I was a kid that ultimately moved to Saraville. So were those kind of things. At one point, South Amboy produced the most priests and nuns in the diocese. And it was the Trenton diocese back then before. So it was that kind of engagement and community. You knew people. Is one of the places where everybody thinks they know everybody. You don't. When you go knock on doors when you're campaigning, you find out there's how many people you don't know. But the truth of the matter is, we all went to school together. Hoffman High, that I graduated from, was smallest public high school in the state, I guess, at the time. 72 kids in my graduating class.
72 kids.
72 kids.
Oh my gosh.
So, it was that kind of place. It was that kind of typical, probably early 60s, late 50s place. People had, most of the guys men who lived there were veterans, World War II. Strong sense of faith, strong sense of community, strong sense of hard work, and strong sense of family. That's
so can I ask you what street were you?
Sure. I was born, and then my sister still lives on the corner of 5th and Feltus.
Okay, I know it exactly. And then like Little League.
Yeah, I was a Little League player. I was, we played Little League. I played Pop Warner football. I had to quit because of my allergies, not because of the fact that I really stunk at it. but was a little league. I was a Cub Scout.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the allergy excuse. I just stopped.
I was a Cub Scout. Made it up to Weeplos. Never was a Boy Scout. And had a pretty typical life. You know, it was a time when you would be out with your friends from sun up to sundown on any day. Remember, no cell phones, no way. You know, the
Nothing,
church,
exactly.
literally the fire alarm they'd sound the fire horn at 7 o'clock, and the church bells would ring at 6 o'clock, and it was kind of the signal to come home. I know that sounds like it's out of an old movie, but the truth of the matter is, that's what it's like. You rode your bike and you hung around with your friends, and
for us, it was when the street lights went on, we had to be home.
Yeah, well, in the summer it's late when the street lights come on.
I know exactly.
But you know, we did all those kind of things. Had you know, great friends and strong sense of community. My dad died when I was a little boy, so he was 4. I was 4 when he died. So my family was a little different than some of the others. But my mother was a phenomenal woman who is everything, you know, everything I ever am or will be is because of her.
So, I mean, this is like, you know, I was talking to someone the other day, and I mean that people in leadership in the state that actually know difficult, hard times. And I said, you know, you were the only person that I knew that I mean, that obviously has to be a seismic event. My father's mother died when he was 7 years old, and it like they had a large family. It broke apart the family for a time, and then they came back together. But it had to be. Can I ask you, like, what do you remember?
Yeah. Well, I remember it, and look, I've tried to. It's interesting to see. I was 4, like 4.5. He died in July. I was born in January, so I was 4.5. My sister was 3 at the time. You know, I tried to remember independent recollections of my father, which is tricky because you've heard so many stories so many times repeated, and to know whether that's an independent recollection or whether the story you've heard many times is a little tricky. But no, my life was not hard. I mean, my growing up was not hard. My mother. I only, in years came by, in years that passed, found out she took nothing for herself. But we belonged to the Frog Hollow Swim Club, and we did everything. I never thought for an instant that I had a hard life or a life that was denied something. It was, Jim. It was the way it was. I was 4. There was I didn't know really. Having a father, this was the way it was. And my mom, as I said, she was an amazing woman. Not once do I ever recall her saying, "Woe is me," or you know, we got a bad job. It was like, this is it.
But she had to sacrifice. I mean, to be
she did. She did for herself, but not so her kid didn't. Sure, but when you're a kid, when you're a 4-year-old kid, you don't recognize.
You don't realize that.
Yeah, you just say, "This is the way life is." And as I got older, you know, I came to understand. She didn't work at first, and then as I say we, it's my sister Cindy and I, got a little older, she would work part-time, and then ultimately when we got old enough to be, you know, come home from school alone, stuff like that. High school, she went back to work full-time, and so I think things might have been a little easier for her then. But you know, when I was going off to college, it was, you're going off to college. It wasn't like we have to worry about it. It's like, we'll figure it out. And look, there were certain social programs that were in place, college students loans that made this possible. I got my father's Social Security benefits. One of the reasons I'm a Democrat, I think, is, you know, other than my mom telling me where I was a Democrat when I was 10, as we watched I've told this story before. So we were watching the Nixon-Humphrey election I was 10 years old. It was 1968. It went late into the night, if you recall. At least it seemed late to a 10-year-old. And I said, we want to win. And she said, well, we want the Democrat. And I said, well, why? And she said, because they care about people like us. That and the foundation of my political views for the last 54 years. As you know, as simple and as eloquent, all in the same sentence. To her, you know, 10-year-old son is profound to her 64-year-old son.
Yep.
So that's who it was. And so that my life was not hard. I didn't think we were missing anything. I mean, I missed the notion of having a father. There were times, I guess, when my friends would go have something to do with their father, and I didn't have a father to do it. But yeah, my mom taught me how to throw a baseball. My mom taught me how to watch. You know, she was a big sports fan, so I became a big sports fan. And my grandfather was around on the weekends, and you know, life didn't. I didn't have a hard life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. But I guess, you know, my sense is that there had to be some level of sacrifice on your mom's part to make sure that it was all there, to make sure that you lived a life not knowing of her sacrifice, and that to the extent possible, she provides this. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think her part of her greatness was she didn't let me ever feel that.
Yep.
Right? It would have.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It would have been easy for her to kind of, you know, bear a cross and know it. Yep. She didn't. It did.
Yep.
No, there's no whining. There was not a lot of whining in my house.
There's never whining. Exactly.
There's not, and there's still not. You know, we don't.
Yeah.
Like
you suck it up and you get it done.
Yeah. The alternative is what? Won't complain about it.
Yeah. No.
There wasn't a lot of that, and so, you know, everything I learned, everything important I learned in kindergarten. Well, everything I learned that was important, I learned from Craig Coughlin.
Yep. So I mean, so you walk away with a sense of, can I say, grit?
I guess. Like I said, I think.
But I did something there, though.
It would be maybe a better political narrative if I overcame these challenges and those things.
No, I don't mean in the political sense, but I mean in the real sense. I mean, there had to be imbued to you a sense of virtue that you just keep going. Yeah, but but maybe not consciously.
But you don't consciously understand that as a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old.
Yep.
As a 25-year-old, or you know, I probably understood it. And when I became a parent at 31, I kind of understood it then. You know what I mean? That it's historic. You look back and you see it from a different perspective, and then you understand that stuff.
Yeah. Well, why law school?
I wanted to save the world. When I went off to college, I wanted to be a sportscaster. I
remember you saying that.
And then, you know, they all had seemingly better voices than mine, and I chickened out and didn't take the risk, but decided I wanted to save the world, and so I went off to law school. And the first job I applied for was for a foundation job in Appalachia, and I didn't get it. And then I had, you know, but then I was 25 and I had to do something, right? And so I got a job, and you know, it wasn't saving the world. It was for a captive insurance company, so it was fundamentally different. But life goes on. I got engaged, and then got married, and you know, all those things of life that come into place.
So how did you meet your bride?
Well, I met Tish when I was 7 years old. I told you we did everything in life. So my sister went to dance school at the Vern Fowler School of Dance in Metuchen, New Jersey.
Yes.
And there she met my mom. There she met my wife, Tish, and they became friends. My mom and Tish's mom, Barbara, whom you know.
Yeah,
sure. She's passed now. They became friends and remained friends throughout the course of life. And that's where I met my wife. And we were, my sister had a New Year's Eve party from 1983 to 1984. And the rest, as they say, is history.
That's tremendous.
38.
And who had the greater sense of the political bug?
You mean me or Tish?
Yeah.
So, well, probably, I guess we both did it. She just did more about it. pretty typically. She goes off and does stuff. She was a young dem in Woodbridge. She was
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
actively involved, and she was in your camp. I always wanted to, from the time I guess I was in high school, I thought about running for office, and did when I got back from law school. Appointed to the South Amboy Board of Ed when I got out of law school, and then ran for the council in '86, and then again in '92, and then by then we had our second child, our second son. We have three sons, and I thought it was more important, and maybe this is where not having a father may have had some little bit of a role. I thought it was more important to be a father, and so I left the city council and didn't run again for, I guess, 17 years. I mean, stayed involved. Tish was a committee woman, and we moved to Woodbridge to be closer to you. No, I'm kidding about that, but we moved to Woodbridge. And she became a committee woman.
Sure.
Gus Mazziola, who you recall was my committee man, so there was no getting that seat.
No, that was
when they were the mayor, I was the municipal chair, and so we both kind of kept involved in politics, and then years later, I thought I was a municipal judge in Edison at the time, and thought I might try to be a Superior Court judge. I was hoping to maybe do that, and the assembly seat came open, and I ran for it, and here I am. So it's it's a bit of a circuitous route, I guess. But in the interim, I coached Little League and drove the kids to their Cub Scouts.
Yep.
I wasn't much of a scout, so I wasn't about to undertake that. Involved in the routine things of life that are so really important to kids' development. So that's how I got there. I mean, that's a long answer.
So can I ask you, how many years married now?
36.
36. It's, I mean this in the best sense. It's like the all-American. I mean, 36, 3 kids, Ford's, New Jersey.
The luckiest all-American in the world. That's who I am.
Yep.
So, yeah, we have always been engaged. My kids delivered your flyers.
Yep.
Your kids that were actually in your ads when they were little kids. My first recollection of people in South Amboy, of my oldest son, Craig, was him being in a baby carriage and a little stroller running around campaign headquarters. So my kids have always grown up in an environment where
they were actively involved. So if you were to say, what are the 3 values, not as Craig necessarily as a father or as a husband, but what are the 3 values that you hold sacred in terms of your governance or your service in the legislature? What are the 3 things that you care, or 3 issues that you care most deeply about?
Well, first is helping people. I mean, I think we have a duty to do that. That if you don't want to do that when you're not, then don't get involved in politics, because that's what your first job is. Try to, appreciate how fortunate you are to be able to do that. Work hard, but enjoy it. It's a gift that we get to have 9 million people counting on you. In my case, or 100,000 people in Woodbridge counting on me, or 7,500 in South Amboy when I was on the city council. So, I think that would be it. First and foremost is helping people. That's what everybody does, and I believe that everybody who begins a political career begins in that place. They want to make their town better. They want to help people. I firmly believe that.
Yeah. So from the perspective of working class families, I mean, you spend a lot of time on hunger for people that are trying to make ends meet. Why has that been a passion of yours as well?
Well, for a few reasons. First and foremost, I think it's closer to a moral obligation than to a governmental function. it just strikes at the things that we have to do. I firmly believe that there are things that we have to do. Just absolutely have a fundamental obligation to the people we represent. If we can't feed them, house them, give them a chance to succeed, and generally that I think is centered around having a good education, give them a level of medical benefits so that we can care for them, then we don't get the right to call ourselves great at being a state or being a country. And so food was something that just is
almost obvious.
Things that I said to stop. I mean, we can change that.
Yep.
We can, and we have to, right? And you know how you know that, Jim, is because just look at how many people are involved in trying to fight that fight. I mean, how many food pantries are there? Yep. Church groups, the community-based groups. And if you say we need to feed somebody, there's an outpouring for that because it's so fundamental. Most of us are really lucky. And Coughlins are incredibly lucky, right? We never worry about what we're going to eat or whether we're going to eat, only what, a lot where. But so for most of us, it's so fundamental, but it is so debilitating if you have to wake up every morning and think about that. Think about being a parent, thinking about being a person. Every day you have to wake up and try to figure out how to feed your family or feed yourself. And it's not because you forgot to go to the grocery store last night. It's because there's not anything to do that.
You have to eat.
Yeah, you have to eat. And we all know, I mean, we all know that food and good nutrition are tied to success for students and at every level, by the way, including college. Which is something I discovered as we went through this, but just the loss if you're not that, how it weighs down your ability to be successful, to achieve whatever it is that you're capable of achieving. Mm-hmm. So it struck me first. Senator Vitale is my running mate, dear friend of yours, I know. Succeeded you as a state senator, as a matter of fact. And so he does something for Habitat for Humanity. Yeah, raise for housing. So it taught me that, hey, you probably should do something in addition to legislating, perhaps more direct. Because as a legislator, we make rules. We don't necessarily, direct everything in a direct way to help. So I went to a food pantry. So I was looking for something that I could do and something I cared about. Went to an opening of the new St. Vincent de Paul office in South Amboy, and it was nice and lots of help there. And I came outside, and there's a long line of people that wrapped around that building and the next building, and what strikes you about it is it didn't know sex, it didn't know race, it didn't know religion, it didn't know party, didn't know anything. These were people who just needed help. And so we did a bowling thing. Kathy McLaughlin in my office came up with the idea, and said, let's do some bowling thing. You want to do something good? Let's do this. And so we've done that now for 13 years. But it just was that desire to do something important. And I think that is important.
But what you said is so true, because with our guys and gals that we work with, I mean, they come home from prison and they don't have anything. And, we serve lunch and guys are taking, pieces of chicken and pieces of whatever, bread, and stuffing it, because you realize they don't have a dinner that night.
Right. Yeah. This is their only meal. Right. So that's why, people make jokes about people taking their plastic bags with them or something like that. For many people,
exactly.
That's not, they're not being cheap. They're just trying to get through.
Exactly. And they don't have that. So, I mean, you spend time talking about, focusing on food and food scarcity and supply. And then in this last legislative session, if you will, on the other side is an issue that's basic to every homeowner. I know in the 19th district in the state of New Jersey is property taxes. And that's been, for seniors as well. I mean, property taxes has been such a crushing hammer so often. you spend your life trying to keep pace, and then the property taxes go higher and higher and higher, particularly when you're retired. And that's what, what you've done has been important.
Well, I think so. I mean, look, property taxes have been at the top of the list in surveys for ages, right?
Yeah.
It is one thing that people really look at when they say New Jersey needs to do things differently, and that's one of the things I think they said last November, and we had the good fortune this year to have very strong revenue numbers, and so in deciding what to do with them, and obviously one of the things that we're always trying to do is cut taxes. Most people don't know it, but before last year we had 14 tax cuts during the time that I've been speaker. Most of them go unnoticed, frankly.
Yeah.
But this was an opportunity to do something very meaningful, and we did. We committed $2 billion to reducing property taxes throughout the state. People up to who have incomes, family incomes up to $250,000 will be able to share in it, because we wanted to reach up and make sure we caught people who are middle class people in New Jersey. And we have it's an expensive place to live. We have a high salary, so we wanted to make sure that we got as many people as we could. And so we did that, and we included renters too, because that matters to them, right? There's so many people who rent as well. Probably the people that you serve so nobly, I might add. They're renters.
Yeah.
They oftentimes have lost everything, and have nothing when they come out. They're a renter.
Yeah.
So helping them makes a difference. This is, we've done some other things too. I think that the people should be mindful, should know about it, and take advantage of the fact that we're going to have a sales tax holiday for back to school stuff, to try to help people, to help stem inflation as best we can. Like we can't reduce inflation at the state level, right? There are not monetary policies that we can put in place, but so what we can try to do is to help people and give them the assistance to make things better. We did that too with child care credits. We've done it to try to child care credits, child care facilities. We're doing it with property taxes. People are struggling at this time, right? You see that we saw that in food a lot. We were making some real headway, and then the pandemic came, and along with it came 2 million unemployment claim. And so boom, it exploded again. And just as we're getting back to normal, boom, inflation raises its ugly head. And so we face more challenges. So helping working class, middle class New Jerseyans is something we had the opportunity to do, and I'm proud of the fact that we did it.
Could you talk a little bit about education? One of the things, Craig, that we see with our guys and gals coming out of prison is, we give them job training, whether it's HVAC, whether it's CDL, whether it's welding, or Cisco certification, or Google, whatever. Is just that, the need, when you talked about, when I thought about, was listening to what you said about South Amboy and the old factories and the industrial, it's almost as if we have to bring back a sense of vocational education. We have to bring back a sense of that technical training. So if that, not everybody's going to study European history and going to go on to college and law school, to understand the importance of technical education. Is that something that you see that we can make more robust? Because I just see a lot of guys and gals, frankly, who check out of the system, whether they drop out of school, and whether it's in any urban or suburban area. And then they, like years later, we get them, and now all of a sudden they're 27 or 31, and they want to learn a technical skill because they realize they went way off the tracks.
Yeah, I mean, look, and we have, right? We've done it by investing in programs that support and make it easier to go to community college, for example. Those things can have technical aspects. We've invested in supporting technical education, just as you suggested, because not everybody has an interest in going to a 4-year college. Not everybody's interested in being an accountant or a lawyer or
Yeah.
something else. But you know, the skills that people do have and would like to make a career out of, and I think that's what education does. It lets you create a career path, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if you're good at being a mechanic, you can make a career out of
A
that.
good, a good living.
Yeah, you can make a real nice life out
Yeah.
of it, uh, and raise your family, be proud of the work you do, which is so important, by the way. Um, Same thing with building trades.
Yeah.
Those career path jobs and so many other things are that don't require you to go to college and yet are so important. And you know, interestingly, when the pandemic came and the challenges that result from it proved how important things that we probably took for granted really were. How important was it to have truck drivers who courageously went off to work when all of us were being told to stay home? The
Yeah.
folks who work in grocery stores were heroes.
Yeah.
You know, the woman who's been a dear friend of ours, I coached her kids in Little League. She's known her for years. So I go to work at Wegmans, which is the
Yeah.
nearest
Every
supermarket.
day.
You know, double masked, gloves
Yeah.
on,
Getting it done.
and getting it done, because guess what? The Coughlins were not able to provide for themselves at that time, you know, and so many people like me. We don't hunt, and it was too late to grow a field. So we couldn't survive without those people driving those trucks and selling us the things. And it
No, I
also,
appreciate your honesty. Yeah.
you know, it's the truth.
Yeah.
So the other thing that strikes you is how important, like as things change, the things that are important in the day-to-day operation of life, not all of them involve going to college. You know, being a lawyer is great. You know, I'm proud of it, but when it doesn't help you, if you have to try to repair something on your own, I'm not
Yeah.
Andy, least mechanically inclined human being on the planet. But
No, there was my father.
so you know, so it is critically important to engage, to invest in, and commit to giving people the opportunity to be in a career that doesn't involve college, right? To afford them the opportunity to go to technical school, afford them the opportunity to go to community college and do something that will let them create that career path. And you see it every day in the work that you do, right? As you
Yeah.
alluded to at the beginning, if folks had a career opportunity, then they're going to be well served going forward.
Yeah.
Getting them the job is the tricky work that you do, but training them is critically important.
The training is everything, because at the end of the day, they can feel part of an economy. They can feel part of a team, part of a company. And you know, a lot of Jersey companies will give them breaks. I mean, the problem is the national companies, unfortunately, their HR policies are,
Yeah.
you know, designed in Indiana or wherever they're designed. But a lot of New Jersey guys will give them breaks, but they want them to have, like, we just started this new welding program. We had a group of welding corporations come in last Friday. Every single kid going through that welding program is prospectively hired. The same thing with our CDL, same thing with diesel mechanics, but they want them to have the skills necessary to compete. So that's the exciting thing.
Right. And in government, we can do it, right? Because we can
Yep.
allocate funds for that. It isn't, you know, it's cliched a bit to say that the budget is a statement of values, but it is.
It is,
It's
yeah.
not cliched when it's true, right? And that's true. So when we invest in community college, we invest in technical programs, then we're serving the people.
Yeah, no, and I just want to thank you for your support for reentry, because it enables us to do what we do and provide training programs so that people change their lives from, unfortunately, the chaos of the streets to, God willing, doing something productive.
Well, look, I mean, first of all, thank you for all the work that you do. You have been a true leader in bringing attention to the importance of that issue of reentry, by convincing and reminding us all that, you know, we're there, but for the grace of God go I, and people deserve a second chance. So you've done tremendous work in that area, Jim. But the truth, I think, also is that we all benefit from that work. We all benefit from people who come out of prison, who've served their time, done their punishment, being able to become part of the success of the society,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
It's we're not better if people go back to jail. We're better if people go to work and can then have a career and raise a family and participate in the community and do all those things. And that's the opportunity that you've helped them get.
And I want to thank you also about Craig, as also, I mean, part and parcel of that is the addiction crisis and fentanyl. And I just want to thank you for participating in our fentanyl addiction. But it's you look at the numbers. I mean, I looked at the numbers in the 19th district, you look at the numbers in Middlesex, you look at the numbers throughout the state of New Jersey, and just for the families that, and it like addiction touches everybody.
Yeah, there's probably nobody in the state who doesn't know someone or some friend or some relative who hasn't been affected by, if not themselves, then somebody that they love and care for. It's just it's so prevalent. It's just, and it's so it's just horrible. It really. It's horrible for the person. It's horrible for the people who care.
And the family.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's horrible for mom and dad trying to grapple with that. You know, when they have like 3 kids or 4 kids, and they're trying to grapple with that. And no, but I appreciate that. And what?
Siblings, you know.
Pardon?
And siblings too. I mean, it affects the entirety of the family, right?
Yeah.
And their children, if they have children.
So that, you know, we're making a special commitment. We get everybody who calls us into recovery, whether detox, residential, IOP, or MAT, within 24 hours. And that's what, you know, we're trying to spread that message. Could you talk a little bit in the time remaining, that when you you look at New Jersey, grew up in New Jersey, South Amboy, you know, almost a bucolic American existence, the challenges that were there, law school, come back, Tish, 3 sons, and you look at one's questions, it might be a little dark, and the other question, God willing, is optimistic. How has politics changed? And what can we do to repair that fabric, Speaker?
So I think it's changed because it's become more polarized, because people define themselves oftentimes, you know, red or blue, Democrat or Republican, and are less willing to compromise. And I think that eats away at the sense of us all being in it together and needing to work together and make sacrifices. I think that's probably the biggest change. You know, it can be awfully bellicose, and so I don't think that that's positive. How do you change it? I think you just, one way to do it, the only way that I can think to do it is to get to know people who are your not your opponents, but your colleagues are on with a different view. By trying to understand that we're all in this together, and that people can offer good ideas. I think I am going to brag a little bit about the fact that we've been able to do that. I think in New Jersey. I'll give you a clear example. I don't know if there's anything in the country that divides us more right now than things surrounding voters' rights. There's a tax on it in many states. There's debate on it in almost every state. Questions, people trying to question elections and things like that. And we just passed the bill on a bipartisan basis. I was the sponsor. The minority leader, guy named Mayo, was the second prime. That worked to come up with addressing some of the concerns that people have in elections, and how, because the way votes get counted has changed, and that many people now vote by mail. Um, a vote is still a vote is a vote. It's things are always changed, right? When I was a kid, we went to Smith Street in South Amboy to do our Christmas shopping and then to the mall, and now you can do it online. It's still a Christmas feast at the end of the day. So, but in New Jersey, what we did was we got together, and John and I and our colleagues, up and down leadership and up and down the assembly, came up with something that works, and we did it together. We passed it together. I think that's a clear example of how you can get things done if you just work together and respect the other guy's opinion. I mean, they agreed to things that they probably wouldn't abstractly agree to, and we did too. We on the Democratic line. But if you get to know people, if you really get to talk to them, and now obviously we can't get to know 9 million people to this level, but if you get to know people, then you can disagree with them, but you don't distrust their motives. And if we can get to that point, then I think we're making some progress. If we can come to a sense of all of us being in this together, because so many of the things that affect us, we are in it together, right? I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. You don't want to pay $5 for a gallon of gas. You don't want you don't want to see the Ukraine get overrun by we still have more things that we hold dear and in common. You just have to kind of remember that, not get sidetracked by some of the other forces that would seek to do that. I know that sounds
it's like, no, but it's important. It's knowing the person as opposed to the political construct. And that requires time.
It does require time, but it also requires you to appreciate what your neighbor's doing, right? So if you're when you're off at a street fair in your community, and first of all, I urge everybody to go out and go to street fairs. Go to the
You can visit the St. James Street Fair in Woodbridge. No,
it's coming up.
It's coming up.
I think it's September 19th. But get to know your neighbor. I mean, but just recognize that you may be disagreeing about something, but
that's okay.
You want to take your kid for ice cream. Everybody wants to take their kid for ice cream.
Right? I remember my dad saying when he came back from the war, he would go to the American Legion of the VFW, and there were guys there that were Republicans or Democrats, but they all watched ABC, CBS, or NBC, and they all read the Star Ledger in the morning. They went to church or they went to synagogue or whatever, but there was, they had that commonalities. But to go to your point, they talked to each other, whether they had a conversation at the bar, they had a conversation at a picnic, and so they knew who each other were. I think that's important. So give me what you think of if you can, the remaining minutes, the 3 challenges that you think on the horizon for New Jersey are important to maintain our competitiveness or maintain our position.
Well, I think we have to continue to work on taxes and make sure that those things stay in place. I think we need to do a good job at communicating the things that we do really well. We have the best public education system in the country. Every year we're first, second, or third. Last 2 years in a row, we've been number 1. That's a big, important issue. If you're going to give people the opportunity to succeed, if you're going to bring people to come to work in your state and to live in your state. And by the way, that what was once common wisdom is really, truly an urban myth that people are running out of New Jersey. In fact, 500,000 more people live in New Jersey than in the last census. But we should continue to do those things, and we should continue to work together to craft the best New Jersey we can. And I know that sounds probably a little cliche, but the truth of the matter is we have done an awful lot of good things in terms of standing up for people of diversity of one of the most diverse states in the country, if not the most diverse state. I think we've we've taken on the challenges that have come along along some of those lines, right? We have
Sure.
recognized that social justice,
Criminal justice reform.
right, exactly right. I mean, we have the first bill we did, A1, was to have an equal pay bill for women. So this is a place that is open-minded, and able.
That was the only time I ever heard my mother and father argue about my father would say, his voting block, which was him and my mom, and my mother was like, don't get carried away with this, Jack. She believed in the Equal Rights Amendment, but you're right.
Well, it was an equal pay bill, right?
Yeah, no. But I mean, your equal pay was just recognizing that
it was preposterous in 2018 that we had to pass a law to say that women got paid the same as men. Preposterous and insulting to women, but we did. And hope it's working.
So when you look at those issues, taxes, education, equity of access. I mean, that creates opportunities for working families. That creates hope. What if Craig continues to do good things in life? How do you want Craig Coughlin to be known at the end of his life for what he did? What, if you could think of that epitaph, what would it be?
Wow. I still got a couple of chapters left, but well, look, Howard, I guess I would like to, I think somebody who cared and made a difference, somebody who was, people, I get called a nice guy a lot. I relish that term. I hope it's true. I'd like to be known as a guy who was
fair.
Was fair and decent and who was the only thing I really wanted to be a world class at. Well, not the only thing I wanted to be world class, but the thing I've always wanted to be world class at was being a father. Hope I'm recognized as that.
And husband.
A good husband. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think if you could sum that up and say, he made his mother proud, pretty damn good.
Greg, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. No, that's actually, that says it all. Well, I'm just really grateful for your leadership and for your character and that you're a good guy and you're making a difference, and not only in understanding the issues because of who you are and how you were raised, but where you live and what you do. And it speaks to your character, your family, your wife, your kids, but also
you're going to keep saying such nice things. I'm going to come back every week, Jim.
Oh no, I shouldn't say this on camera, but I was at our friend Skip Semino's, Gail Semino's funeral mass, and I said to Skip, I said, I think of families like that. I think of yours. I think of Skip's, and there's a lot of goodness there. So, and I just want to say,
well, thanks.
No, and I just want to say thank you, and also to your better half who put up with me while we were bowling. I was
to work on your bowling
on the team. So, but anyway, Craig, thank you so much, and I shouldn't need full disclosure. Just know that Craig and Joe Vitale and Assemblywoman Lopez was kind enough to keep my father employed for many, many years as Semper Fi, and
he was, your father was a wonderful man. He was a great man. That employed, I guess, we were fortunate to serve with him. I think that's it, because he never, he wouldn't take a raise. He had a small salary.
But he loved what he did. And
he did. And he made such a difference in veterans' lives. Like, there was no better veterans advocate. You talk about funerals, and I remember Governor Christie being at your dad's funeral and telling the story of how he wanted a helicopter at, I forget which event it was.
Carteret.
And calling up the governor and saying, I don't know what kind of show you're running there, Christie, but we need a helicopter for this and that. And governor, of course, said, Jack, you'll have your helicopter. So
Exactly.
He didn't care who was the governor.
Exactly.
Helicopter.
And he got his Danny Ryman got his helicopter. So, well, thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your time.
Be well. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, my friend. God bless.
Bye.
Thank you.